All right, in New South Wales now, and Premier Gladys Berejiklian has told a corruption inquiry she had a close personal relationship with former Liberal MP Daryl Maguire. The admission came out today as part of evidence given to the Independent Commission Against Corruption, known in New South Wales, you probably know it right around the country as ICAC, which is investigating whether Mr Maguire used his political position for personal gain. It's been alleged that the former member for Wagga Wagga, misused his public office for his own financial gain between the years of 1999 and 2018.
There was no example when you were in a personal relationship with him where you would take charge, as it were, to encourage a particular course of action or discourage a particular course of action.
I would only take action, and I say this clearly, Mr Robertson, I would only take action which was in the public interest. For example, if he wanted a road upgrade in his electorate, which I thought was an important thing to do, well then I would perhaps raise that with the relevant minister, as I would for any other member of parliament. But I would always do it in accordance with the issue, in accordance with my public responsibility, and never, ever, ever waver from that, and I want to make that very clear.
For more, let's bring in Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell from Sydney. I had my head down in a scandal of my own down here in Victoria, Andrew, but this was huge news right around the country, in particular in Sydney today, this morning and beyond. What's everything we need to know?
Well, Gladys Berejiklian was in a secret relationship for at least 5 years with this MP, who's subject of corruption allegations and has been from ICAC for 2 years. She forced him to quit Parliament over those corruption allegations and continued to see him for another 2 years, only finished seeing him when she was called to a private hearing in relation to this inquiry a couple of months ago. And she's caught on phone taps talking to him or listening to him talk about how he's trying to get deals up with developers and lobbying outside his electorate, nothing to do with his electorate, and getting a cut of the proceeds. And according to Gladys, in a press conference, that's all fine. You can work another job as an MP, even though he's lobbying for developers and getting a cut. And she just made some bad choices in her personal life.
Yeah, look, if we all lost our jobs for going out with an idiot, I don't think there'd be any women in working right around the country.
That is not the issue.
But I tell you, if you know, bonking idiots cost you your job, no, women would be in work. But my point to you on that is, has it veered into corruption? You know, there's bad personal decisions that you make, and, you know, Gladys Berejiklian is single. It's not like it's got sort of a moral component here. But is there corruption in your view? What do you think the contention of the public might be on this, and where do you think ICAC is headed? Because he has to himself give a couple of days of evidence, and that will be where people will go to, I think. Are other ministers involved, perhaps?
Well, you know, that phrase you used before, if you're in trouble for dating an idiot.
Not the crime, but the cover-up.
Well, no, dating an idiot. So many women have used that to me today, but I think the problem is, I think Gladys Berejiklian wants that to become the central issue. It's not the central issue. It's more about her judgment, and it's more about the fact that she seemed to think it was okay for this character to operate in the way he was. And it's clearly not okay, because he's accused of misuse of public office, yet he was telling her various details about it the whole way through her time as a minister and a premier. So
I thought what was a bit uncomfortable was, you know, he obviously left the parliament, and she was participating in the Wagga Wagga by-election, and none of this was known. This relationship was not known. I mean, I'm in and around the Liberal Party for a long time. I didn't know that she had a relationship with this bloke. I genuinely didn't. I was surprised as anyone when I saw it revealed today. And of course, there's nothing like your own voice in these sorts of phone taps. You know, the evidence played out in the courtroom. I only wish we had these sort of phone taps down in Victoria at the moment with what's going on in the hotel quarantine inquiry. But where do you think this is headed? Where are her colleagues tonight?
Well, some of them think it's absolutely appalling and much worse than what Barry O'Farrell went for. And basically it's the dishonesty around it. I mean, even with the Wagga by-election, as you say, condemns the guy, doesn't say she's seeing him or knew that he was in league with developers. Let's take the sexual and romantic relationship out of it for a second, Peter, and say if she was aware one of her MPs was involved in these sorts of activities, what should she have done? and she didn't discourage him. Indeed, she seemed to encourage him. So, I think this cements the fact that she won't be Premier at the next election. I don't know what will happen in coming days. I suspect Daryl Maguire's evidence has a lot to say on that. That begins Wednesday, and she didn't do herself any favours there by basically saying that she made a huge mistake in her private life and bagging him all through her press conference. So let's see what occurs with that. But she's lost a hell of a lot of paint here. And I can see from your point of view, when you look at Victoria, and what he's done, why you would say, well, it might not be that big a crime, but at some point or other, you know, I just hope we haven't lost all sense of accountability. I saw Chris Eccles do that today, for when he saw it today, so I'm glad to see after your questioning, and I just hope that, you know, the COVID crisis doesn't mean we lose all sense of accountability for our politicians, because I lived through the Eddie Obeid years, etc., here in New South Wales, and I don't want to see it become that sort of state where this stuff's okay.
Yeah, and I don't believe that there's an equivalence here that these guys are so bad, so what happens over here doesn't look as bad, but it is still bad. I think everything has to be, you know, weighed meritoriously, and bad conduct is bad conduct. I guess in this case, you've got a Premier in Victoria with 800 lives lost who says, I've got to wait for this, you know, almost sham of an inquiry to report before he'll accept any responsibility. And you've got an ICAC investigation, but before that's even concluded, people want her head. We either wait for the inquiry to finish or we don't, or, you know, and I do agree with you, obviously, Andrew, absolutely. There's got to be accountability back in public life. And I tell you what, I don't think Eccles would have resigned if he wasn't forced to put those phone records out there.
No, he wouldn't have. So you did well there.
Oh well, see, I'm sure there's more to come. Thank you very much, Andrew Clennell.
Thanks.